Okay, now I would like to read from the book The Wonders of the Human Body, Physical Regeneration According to the Laws of Chemistry and Physiology by George W. Carey. Now, if you've seen another presentation I've done called Your Body is the Holy Land, I was reading from another one of this guy's books called God-Man, the Word Made Flesh. But what he explains is that the salts of salvation are the 12 cell salts. And we need to have those balanced in our bodies for good health. Now, each one of us are lacking at least 3 of those. And how it works, he explains, is like this. You see, let's take the Jesus, the solar story, shall we? On the 25th of March, 9 months before the 25th of December, where the most famous kid in Capricorn called Jesus Christ was born, the 25th of December, the birthday of Jesus, born in the sign of Capricorn. So if you go 9 months back when he was conceived, on the 25th of March, in the Catholic calendar they call that the day of the, oh God, what are they called? Not the Annunciation. Is that? Yeah, well, that's when Gabriel virtually goes to Mary and says, you're going to conceive a son. That's the day, the 25th of March. Of course it is. Because we're talking about the 9 months of gestation. Right? And I've explained this in other videos. If conception is here and the son is born here, then that's why you celebrate the 25th of December is basically the celebration of that marriage of the sun and the moon. And they impregnate and then the new son is born. So what happens is there are 9 months of gestation and not 12. So what George Carey explains is that in the body, the fetus has developed 9 of those inorganic mineral self salts, but deficient in 3 because of this shortness of the gestation period, you see. And he explains that that is what it means to be born in sin, because it's not complete. You haven't got the complete philosopher's stone and all the alchemical elements. They're not complete. And this is the science that the Greeks used to teach and the Egyptians in their temples. And this is why Rome had to destroy those temples, because salvation had to do with the salt, you see, and to supply those salts to the blood. And when you supply those salts to the blood, you have perfect health. And there's another book of George Carey's, The Chemistry of Human Life. I really recommend you get all of George Carey's books. There's 5 of them, I believe, on the internet. There's another one dealing with the 12 zodiac cell salts.
How do you spell his surname?
Carey is spelt C-A-R-E-Y. This is what he says on page 21 of this book. Scientists have discovered that there are dormant or undeveloped brain cells in countless number, especially in the cerebrum or upper brain, the seat of the moral faculties. Or, more definitely speaking, the key, which when touched with the vital force set free through the process of physical regeneration by saving the seed, and by the baptism in ointment in the spinal cord, lifts the crucified substance, wasted by the prodigal son in riotous living, up to the most high brain. This procedure causes the dormant cells, little buds, remember Aries, the little buds? That's where the buds are in the blossom, in there. That's where the cerebrum is. The little buds to actually bloom. So the procedure causes the dormant cells, the little buds, to actually bloom. Isn't that interesting that Aries is where the blossom happens? You know, the Japanese have Sakura season here, you know, and you go and drink your champagne. I've been to Japan twice around the 21st of December. They have a public national holiday on the 21st of December. Remember I said the Jews start their year here and they start their secular year over here. the equinoxes, these are the two Jewish covenants, these are the two everything. The two equinoxes, the day of equilibrium, perfect equilibrium, to be respected in the solar science, the true Christian science. So the buds, they blossom there. That's the dormant brain cells. The cells, while dormant, are like a flower yet in bud. When the substance that is needed for their development reaches them, through physical regeneration, as outlined in the plan of salvation, fully explained in part 2, the cells bloom and then vibrate at a rate that causes the consciousness of the new birth. The new birth. That's what it means to be born again. You must be born again to be saved. Salvation. And to get your halo. You see? And you raise the fish, the salt, the Lord. Notice the LR, the OR. You see, or, in Latin, that's gold. Oro. Or, time, order. In English, Horus. Hour. Hour, or hours, would be H-O-R-U-S. Horus. What hour is it? What order is it? Because order is the sun. Horus is the sun. Right? So when you're asking, where's Horus? What hour is it? You're asking, where's Jesus? Where's the sun? It's 2 o'clock. Okay, so it's 2 hours of Horus. So if Horus is the timekeeper, the sun, but he's also the gold, you look for those words there, Lord, the Word of God, Orion, orgasm, because the same juice that flows from the generative area where the sacrum is, that's the same fluid that comes from the brain. And this is why the prodigal son who wastes his life in riotous living is the one who doesn't understand the science of sex and who drinks with all the heavy bibbers of wine, because alcohol is acidic. Anything acidic will destroy the oil. The oil will not be protected. You will lose the oil. When you lose the oil, you die. Remember the virgins who were waiting for the bridegroom, and some of them didn't have any oil in their receptacles, and they had to go away to get oil, and then when they got back, the bridegroom, they missed out. That's the virgins that go up here and wait for the bridegroom. The bridegroom is in here, in the heavens. And this system, the cerebrospinal system, is what's known as the soul. The fluids therein. Your blood is like sea salt. In a laboratory, there's no difference between sea salt and human blood, chemically. Just the colour. And that's the Red Sea. See, that's the blood. It's the Red Sea that we have to pass through. We have to pass through the Red Sea. We have to pass through flesh and blood to get to the higher chakras, the astral, and the causal world above. But this is the climb that we make. But we need to go into the higher mind. It's all up to us. It's not up to someone out there in history that's going to come and save us. Now, the reason why I've explained all this is because in court, they give you this book and they tell you that you're a sinner. So, how are we to understand what they've done? As I said, they've created a fictional system out of everything. And, let me explain. Doctors tell you, remember I read that quote about doctors destroy health. They will give you eagerly one of Big Pharma's treatments for your cancer. Like chemotherapy, that's a treatment for cancer. It's not a cure. They never use the word cure, because they'd be out of business. And you can cure. This is the most. This does not require immunisations. This is an immunisation. This is the temple of the living God. the living God, the Creator, not the fictional one like the one in the Monty Python, the Life of Grail, the Holy Grail, where God is like this cartoon, and and don't grovel, That is really the God of the churchgoers. It's a fiction, just like the whole court system which they operate. Remember, don't ever forget, there's the crown and the cross. And they work hand in hand. Like Jordan Maxwell said, there's never a religion that's not slightly political, and there's never a political entity that is not religious. They cannot be. And they cannot control without that. But see, it comes from a pure system of we being our own kings and our own priests. We were supposed to know this. From the age of 12, if we practice saving the seed every month, when the moon is in your sun sign, you can live forever. In fact, they were living for thousands and thousands of years before the fall. Remember, we came into the Piscean age, and we lost a lot of the memory of all of this stuff. But how do they get us to sin? Well, they get us to sin because they give you documents to sign. When they give you a mortgage document and they say, oh, yes, Mr. Bonacci, we'll give you a death pledge. In French, death pledge. Oh, yes, Mr. Bonacci, please, would you like to sin here? Don't worry about the silent G, just, I won't look, you can just sign. This is the system whereby they have caused us to sin. Apply for a driver's license. Register your child's birth, a registration. And you're going to sign, and you're going to sin. Because we were warned, churchgoers are really eager to tell you that this word is bad. Astro, just star. And astrology, so the science of stars. Anything wrong with stars? Last time I checked, they're pretty good things. Yeah, just the stars. Planets, stars. Interesting. They don't like this because, remember, if you know all the systems of 12 in your body, you can heal yourself. So this is condemned. Mind you, you won't find anywhere where Jesus says astrology is from the devil or where he condemns it. Check the New Testament. There's nothing. But I'll tell you what Jesus does condemn. Luke 11:52. Woe to you, lawyers, for you have taken away the key of knowledge. You do not enter in yourselves, and those who are entering in, you hindered. You know how many churchgoers use lawyers? Liars? Because they're not even, they don't swear allegiance to you or the country. They are members of the bar, British accredited registry. They're foreign agents. And they're dealing in sin. Your sin. You're signing, you sin. And salvation is the penance you pay when you go to court. Summonses, fines, taxes, levies, all of that fictional stuff on their papers. We're going to get into that because this is the remedy and it's the relief that we've been waiting for. See, until such time as we come back to God, because they're running the God business, and that's why I have this book in such a prominent place. It might not be in every court now, and they're trying to get rid of it, and it doesn't matter anyway. It's because it's their system is their God. It's not this. They hide this from you. And because everybody's down here in the lower chakras and no one knows who they are, they don't know of their divinity, they're in the lower mind and they're manipulable since kindergarten. Roll call. John Smith, here. If you remember that? What gives with that? You see those kids in their uniforms, marching off to school? People don't see this. They don't see uniforms in children. What the hell for? That's not the community spirit. That's the New World Order that the controllers want to implement by keeping us ignorant of that, you see. Fluoride in the water stops the pineal gland from being activated, destroys the oil. Aspartame destroys the oil. This is the difference between enlightened people and educated people. Enlightened people know that aspartame is made from E. coli feces. Tastes sweet. Oh, it's so sweet. Put it in your coffee. Aspartame, sugar-free. Chew on it. People are chewing on it, you know. Aspartame. And it's poo. It's flavoured poo. So intelligent, enlightened people know that and they don't give it to their kids. But educated people, on the other hand, oh no, the FDA's approved it, and and they've done tests, and the FDA said they've tested it, and it's good, and it's a great alternative for sugar. You don't need real sugar. Aspartame's not a problem. It's made from poo, but doesn't matter. And don't these heavily obese people that are always walking around with Diet Coke, Diet this and Diet that, don't they check those little numbers on the back that say aspartame, everything like that? Basically, you're just drinking poo. And they love it because it tastes great. The flavour, don't worry about it. See, people are don't know themselves because the aspartame and all the poisons and alcohol and all sorts of acidic things have destroyed that oil. None of it's going up. There's no vibration going up. There's no ascension. You can see it. They're brain dead. That's what brain dead is. And they look at you and think, oh, you're a nut. You're talking about ascension and all that. Jesus is going to save me. You know, you're a nut. If you understand it and see these things that are destroying that beautiful Temple of Solomon. Scribes and Pharisees. Scrivener notaries. Scrivener means one who writes indulgences. All your notaries, they're all indulgences. Indulgences are payments for sin. When you get a writ, that's a right. Comes from ritus. It's a religious right. The Inquisition never went away, and it's dealing in sin, your sin, because they know you're down here and you're lost at sea and you need to be salvaged. Salvaged. Salt, because you ain't got no salt. You see, they've got a real system and they're dealing in fiction based on this. And they can only do it to you if you've sinned. Because you're a sinner and you sign for stuff. You're begging them. You're begging them for it. Oh, I want a marriage certificate. I need it. The government said so. Government. Remember what Tolstoy said? Just a bunch of guys that do violence to the rest of us. Because they govern the mental. The mind. Do we need them? Guys, it's time to embrace peaceful inhabitant. I'm going to teach you about that and the concept of usufruct. And to forgive this system. Forgive them, let them go. Because they will perish. Consciousness, the Bible says that there will be a destruction of fire in the last days. That's the Promethean fire. The mind. The consciousness. Consciousness is fire. There's always two fires discussed in the Bible. Water, in the days of Noah, and fire. Water and fire. It's funny, the Mayans talk about the same thing, the Egyptians. Because water is psychic, and fire is the higher consciousness. And these are the baptisms, and these are the destructions that occur. You see, as the human race evolves, we are proceeding forward. We are ascending as a race. All of us. Even the sleepy ones that you see, the sheeple. They're all participating in this. It's natural. And eventually everyone will be salvaged. But they're running the salvage business. And they're getting you to sin. So it's time to stop sinning. Scribes and Pharisees, tax collectors are condemned. Do they pay taxes, the churchgoers? And they even do, yes they do, and they even do donations, right? Yeah, there are always donation boxes. Because all the Protestant churches are running the same Catholic system based on the historical vicarious Saviour. And there's no proof that he existed. None at all. Read Thomas Paine, guys. The Age of Reason. Actually, I'll share something. As to the Christian system, remember this is the guy who wrote Common Sense and what's his other famous work? Age of Reason. Remember? And 3% of the American people won the revolution against King George III, based on this guy's work. Remember, they just printed massive amounts of that book, and the Americans woke up and they had the revolution, got rid of the king, right? And then George Washington signed all those articles of independence, and they got the Constitution going, etc. This is what Thomas Paine had to say. As to the Christian system of faith, it appears to me as a species of atheism. It's the Antichrist. A sort of religious denial of God. It professes to believe in a man rather than in God. It is a compound made up chiefly of manism with but little deism, because deism is what we're talking about, the deity, not theism, the Humpty Dumpty fiction in the sky. And it is clear to, and it is as near to atheism as twilight is to darkness. It introduces between man and his maker an opaque body, which is called a redeemer. As the moon introduces her opaque self between the earth and the sun, and it produces by this means a religious or an irreligious eclipse of light, it has put the whole orbit of reason into shade. The effect of this obscurity has been that of turning everything upside down and representing it in reverse. And among the revolutions it has thus magically produced, it has made a revolution in theology. That which is now called natural philosophy, embracing the whole circle of science, of which astronomy occupies the chief place, is the study of the works of God and of the power of wisdom of God in his works and in the true theology. As to the theology that is now studied in its place, it is the study of human opinions and of human fancies concerning God. It is not the study of God himself in the works that he has made, but in the works or writings that man has made. It is not among the least of the mischiefs that the Christian system has done to the world, that it has abandoned the original and beautiful system of theology, like a beautiful innocent to distress and reproach, to make room for a hag of superstition. He knew what the Christian churches were up to, and he wasn't the only one. John Adams, one of those founding fathers. Let's have a look at the founding fathers, shall we, for a bit, because they knew what was going on. They were all Hermetists, all of them. And they were in touch with Volney and Dupuy, Napoleon's men. Volney used to go over the Atlantic and teach Jefferson and Adams and all of these guys about the true theology. Let's have a look at John Adams, shall we? He would know. They knew because they were pretty wise men. The divinity of Jesus is made a convenient cover for absurdity. The government of the United States is not in any sense founded on the Christian religion. These are John Adams' quotes. So for all these churchgoers, they say, we need to make sure that we go back to our original founding principles of Christianity. It was Hermeticism. Thomas Jefferson, all those guys were Hermetists. Freemasons. George Washington was a Freemason. Anyway, I could go on about that, but look, we can go back. Remember the timeline that I produced before. We can go back to right here, the 2nd century, and we find Celsus on the true doctrine. Right here, Celsus, 2nd century. Porphyry, they burned all his books against the Christians. He called them, well, he knew who they were. Julian, in the 4th, Porphyry was here. So this is Celsus, Porphyry, Julian, Galen, Fronto, Epictetus, Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, who was around here somewhere, all of those guys detested the Christian corporation that was coming through. Porphyry said no one would imagine that they would have so much power. Julian called them slit-throats because they killed all his family. Constantine was over here when he founded the Catholic Church. Julian was a relative of Constantine. He brought the world back to its senses. They called him the apostate, Julian the apostate. And he wrote about this science, the science of the sun, and gave glory to the Son, the true Christ. And he called them slit-throats. And he said no one imagined the power that they would have. No one would imagine. You yourselves behave like the Jews who vent their rage and petulance by raising altars and destroying temples, and you slaughter us as well. Not only those, see, Christianity now in school, and they paint a different story about, oh, we've got the high moral ground, we're the Christian church, we've evolved from all that barbaric stuff. And they don't tell you how many people they've killed in their inquisitions and crusades and how many indigenous people that they've stolen land off. You know, when they come to someone's land, I've shown this before, there's the sheriffs. What are they doing with that red shield? The red cross, that's the Rothschild. The Rothschild means red shield. That is the Knights Templar cross. That's the Vatican doing business with you. There's a sheriff in New South Wales, and they've got the cross, the Holy Roman Cross, in this country, because this country is just a corporation of the Vatican. It's owned by the Rothschilds and the Windsors, two of the richest Germanic family bloodlines, the Saxe-Coburg-Gothas and the Rothschilds. The Rothschilds were Boers 200 years ago when Napoleon was defeated, and then overnight they owned all of Europe. James Rothschild in France, Nathan in England. And, you know, when they send their corporations over to other countries, there's the famous picture of Columbus arriving, and within 2 years he'd slaughtered 10 million indigenous people. All for Jesus, of course. Then he goes back to Europe in 93 and signs the contract of Tordesillas, granting all those newfound lands to the Vatican. They're still there, they're still doing business with you, and those sheriffs prove it. The cross, you'll see all their symbols in the courthouse. And the Bible, because they're running the business of sin and salvation, and you need to be saved. So when you know who you are, I'm going to give you some remedies if you've got to go to court, and if you're getting rate notices, and if you're getting utility bills, that's already paid for. Your trusts, your birth certificate trust, your Cestui KV trust, are a system whereby if you act as the beneficiary, everything's paid for. Your utilities are already paid for. Tell your pensioner friends they are paid for. When you go to the post office and you pay with some extra cash, you're actually adding to the national debt. That's all you're doing. You're committing a crime by paying your utilities. It's criminal. It's already paid for because you are rich beyond imagination. The banksters make $1.2 billion from your birth certificates. They buy them for $7 million. It's a great turnaround. Remember, the banks are in with the priests, and there's not a priest. All of this is parish controlled. The whole Roman world is. It's all parishes and provinces. The Jesuits run the provinces. The parishes are your little black priests, you know, the ones with their little funny collars around, and they're usually inclined to be a little bit pedophile-ish. Yeah. Wonder why? Because they're creepy people who haven't done any of this, and they're dealing with the fictional system of, oh, someone's going to come and save you. Just as long as you belong to our franchise. Don't go to the Jehovah's Witnesses, you die there, they're from the devil. And yet the Jehovah's Witnesses tell you, you see all these are the believers, and you are the unbelievers. You don't believe in any of their things, but if you ask them, they're all going to hell. Because the Mormons will tell you that the Baptists are going to hell. The Southern Baptists tell you the Northern Baptists are creepy. The Seventh-day Adventists will tell you that the ones that speak in tongues, the Pentecostals, are idiots, and they're going to hell and they worship the devil and they're possessed by the devil. Just ask them. Yeah, that's all you've got to do. See, this is how divided the kingdom of Christ is. There's 30,000 registered of these churches. See, we must understand. I showed you all that history. I showed you the true salvation, the salt, the halo, knowing who you are. That's who you are. You are this temple. And if you get crucified at the age of 33 like Christ did, you will be born again. The dead shall rise. And you are rising. It's an awakening that is happening. And we're all participating in it. But these people, they're staying down here because they do not acknowledge, they deny this. I speak to many Christians. Today I was performing in the Burke Street Mall, and on Wednesday, and I had some real sort of interesting Christians that approached me to try to tell me that Jesus is going to save me. And I tried to explain this, and they just wouldn't listen. They don't listen. One guy mocked me today. He's like, "Do you play music for Jesus?" And I looked at him and I thought, should I or should I not? Do I play music for Jesus? Where do I begin to start telling him who Jesus is? Oh, there he is in that cloud over there. It's sad. It's sad. Obviously, you can sense a little bit of anger in me because I've done the fictional, and I don't regret it, being a Jehovah's Witness knocking on your door, bringing you to Jesus. I don't regret having done that because I know this book back to front. You can quote any scripture and I'll tell you where it is, in which book it is. That's how I studied this book. I was a great servant. I love this book. And I know the nature of all of those 66 books and the content and the scriptures therein. And that's what's helped me to understand all this and to be so eager to want to get it out and help some people. Because this awakening is not going to go away. They killed the Renaissance, they killed the Albigenses, they stopped all those, but they will not do it this time. And there's no failure, guys, don't even consider it. And the remedies I'm going to share with you will blow your mind how simple they are. It's quite simple to lose the fiction and say goodbye to the monster. You know, remember David with his 5 stones? The 5 senses. He picked up 5 stones and he slew Goliath. It's easier to slay Goliath. Goliath is a fiction. We're scared of him in our mind because we think that they've got so much control and power and they are the elites. They're nothing. And we need to blow them away. Not have hate, because remember, we fell in consciousness. When you go down to Pisces, remember, Pisces are down here, the fish. When we fall, we really do fall. Nature does a number on us. And as many of the great Platonic philosophers like Thomas Taylor in the 18th century, how he explained all of those legends and everything, and he said that we have drunk from the cup of forgetfulness because we descend from unconditioned consciousness. That's our true nature. Unconditioned consciousness. When the optic thalamus gets lit up, we are born again, we know who we are. There's no way you're going to be contracting with courts. You will never go to courts again. You'll never go to courts again. That's for commerce. That's for doing business. And it's for sinners, people who have signed. And how do they save you? Because they put you on their ship and they spank you. They save you by putting you into prison. And in fact, it works. It works. Because once you've had enough pain of going into prison and paying fines and everything, and you realise that this is a joke. You just want to live and be free, don't you? Don't you just want to be happy, healthy? Don't you just want to be, let's have a great time, let's enjoy life. And why do we have to hear about wars all the time and the banks creating war? They're all scientifically created. Depressions are scientifically created. That's a fact. I can give you quotes. I don't need to, because I know you know. But for people out there in the general masses, they might laugh at that and think, oh no, it's the economy. The economy is this monster it's a fictional monster. There's only one currency, and that's the love in your heart and goodwill. If I say, I'll see you tomorrow, Andy, yeah, I'm going to see you tomorrow at 2 o'clock, I should keep my word. It's handy. and you build reputation by keeping your word. But then when you go into contract and all of these signing and sinning, they know what they're doing. All these little sinners go to court because you've signed. That's why the judge says, and can we have your name for the record? And they say their name, because if you say that name, that corporate name, they know that you've signed for that name. You've signed onto their system. They know that the whole world is under that system. Just want to finish off with the great Julian. Please remember this was one of the greatest men who ever lived. And they call him Julian the Apostate. Definitely the most qualified, ascended person to ever sit on the throne of Rome. And I believe more so than Marcus Aurelius, who'd probably be the second most important man in Rome in terms of the holy science. Remember, the holy science is halos, salt, the true science of salvation. And you slaughter us as well, not only those of us who remain true to the teachings of our ancestors, but even your own. Or those you style heretics because they do not bewail a corpse in the manner your teachers demand. These are your deeds. Nowhere else did Paul pass on rules for such actions. And why? Because never could they have imagined that their followers would have such power as they have now. He's talking about way over here, guys. This is Julian. What about the power they've got now? In 2012. They're going down. Check out the work of Kevin Annett. Kevin Annett is the CEO of an organisation mainly in Canada and Europe, and they've given the Vatican till the 15th of September to turn over and defrock all those pedophiles and come clean. And if they don't, there are 5 countries who are willing to stand to say, Vatican, out of this country. The Vatican is the bank. It is the bank that runs the whole system of sin, and you are the sinners because you signed on. These are your own deeds. Annett, A-N-N-E-T-T. Lovely man. He's found a lot of tombs and history in Canada where the churches have killed many of the Indigenous people. Just like in Australia, all the Aboriginals. They get taken away from their teachings. They get taken away from all this star stuff. Well, you're coming to Jesus. Come to church, you little Aborigines. You wouldn't know anything about animism and God and the Creator. We're going to teach you about Humpty Dumpty in the sky, and you're going to believe in it. And they're going to be saved. There's no salvation, man. Remember, Big Pharma give you treatments. They don't give you cures. They don't deal in cures. Celsus, on the true doctrine. You've got to read this if you want to know who the Christians really are. A bunch of thugs and killers. He called them buffoons. They can only convert idiots at the market. But as soon as an intellectual or someone intelligent comes along, they run off because they don't know, oh God. Porphyry. Porphyry is one of the greatest, one of my favourites. Porphyry. Just amazing, this man. The great wisdom of this man. They burned all his books. Basilides, Valentinus. All from this period here. As I mentioned, there was Fronto, Galen. Galen was basically up until Paracelsus. Galen was the medical hero of Rome for even now. People look to Galen's works. He derided the Christians. Fronto, all of them, all of the great astrologers, all the great philosophers, all of them. Even Boethius over here, Hypatia. They killed Hypatia just after Julian, and they destroyed the temples down in Alexandria. Remember, they with the Christians with seashells, they scraped every bit of flesh off Hypatia's bones. Not even the dogs would lick the bones. That's how much satisfaction they got from destroying the pagan worlds, the pagan schools that taught all this. This is exactly what the mystery schools were teaching. Anyway, I won't get into that because I really want to get into remedies, but check out all the other things that is condemned by Jesus. Money changers, usury, yeah, that's a one, you know, and you'll find that Christendom is all about usury, false vicarious salvation, and all sorts of drugs that are going to kill you. They don't like Islam, who doesn't have a Messiah, just a prophet, and who teaches don't drink alcohol because it is bad for you, and it is bad for you. It's acidic and just destroys all the oil. And the other thing they don't do is usury. Interesting, isn't it? But yeah, well, they'll go down and use all these services. It's all ecclesiastical. It's the church in the bank. The judge sits on the bench. That's the bank. What's the remedy, guys? Well, there's quite a few remedies I want to share with you. Please go to the internet and check out the concept of usufruct. Usu, meaning to use, and fruct, meaning the fruit. We don't own things, we use them. That's why you get a certificate of ownership, or the title, certificate of the title, to your house, right? Because you're using it. And you can use, well, let me read. Usufruct is a right of enjoyment enabling a holder to derive profit or benefit from property that either is titled to another person or which is held in common ownership, as long as the property is not damaged or destroyed. In many usufructory property systems, such as the traditional ejido system in Mexico, individuals or groups may only acquire the usufruct of the property, not legal title. Usufruct comes from civil law, under which it is a subordinate real right of limited duration, usually for a person's lifetime. The holder of a usufruct, known as a usufructuary, has the right to use the property and enjoy its fruits. Under Roman law, usufruct was a type of personal servitude, a beneficial right in another's property. The usufructuary never had possession of his property. You see, when you go claiming that you own things, you own the property, right? So when they send you into court because you haven't paid your rates or something like that, well, you said you own it. And you signed for the mortgage. And you can only use things. And they know that. You see, have a look at the history of this country, about 240 years old. Captain James Cook came over for the Rothschilds and planted a maritime flag on here and said, we're going to do business, call it the Crown. And who came over in boats? All our parents, right? You see, like pirates on their boats, and so what they ship over is maritime law, really. That's all they brought over here, the maritime flag of James Cook, because they can't rightfully take this land. You can't go and get someone else's land. You can't do that. But what they're doing is they're using it. And they've established corporations on here. The big one's called the Corporation of the Commonwealth of Australia, registered in New York. It's doing business. They're all doing business, and we've signed on. And they know that, so we're sinners. Because we don't know who we are. Once you know who you are, you forget the world and ownership and power and all of those things. You go within and you seek the kingdom of heaven. And you become a priest and a king. And when you go into court, that's why you need to be asking the questions. When you ask questions, you are not belligerent or creating a controversy. The moment you go into court and make statements, you're done in their system. Oh, good little sinner. And they're looking at you thinking, this is going to be so easy. This guy's making statements, because you are creating a controversy. If you ask questions, there's no way they can get you. Not a chance in the universe. These are the questions. By what or under what authority do you use that name, Mr. Santo Bonacci, as personal identification? That's all you need. And you're out of there. Ask questions. That's not creating controversy. Here's some suggestions. You might want to write them down. Now, this is from the Peaceful Inhabitants people. There's a group that I'm Skyping with regularly, and I will have them on... I'll have some Peaceful Inhabitants people, a guy called Batman, That's his Skype handle. And is it Stephen? Anyway, look, on American Freedom Radio, probably on the around about the 20th or the 19th of this month of June, I will have them. The week before, I will have the people from the Postmaster General, James Thomas McBride. Have you heard about that? The Postmaster General? Okay. So just, if you can, get onto American Freedom Radios to my shows, which here in Australia are 8 a.m. in the morning on Sunday.
Can you repeat that question? Under what?
Let's do the questions. These are the 4 pillars of being a peaceful inhabitant. If you're a peaceful inhabitant, you know, usually when you're a sovereign and the cops pull you up, you're like, can I see your ID? No, I don't have to, I'm a sovereign. And all of that, you're gone. You're gone. Because you've just created a controversy, and they own the seas. And they own the salvage business. The salt. Because you haven't got the salt. And they know it. And you're a good little sinner because you sinned when you wanted a license to drive. Drive is commercial, right? When you're driving, it's not travelling or journeying. Driving is for commercial purposes. All of the world out there is commerce. It's all commerce, right? And that's the system of Babylon the Great. So, I believe this is the first thing that comes out of your mouth when the judge says your case. I believe there is a mistake in the matter of the name. I believe there is a mistake. See, they can't persecute you for your beliefs. But if you make a statement, oh, there's a mistake in the name, you can't use that name. Well, he's like, well, who says so? We've been doing it all the time, and they'll get you for it. But if you ask and be the king and turn the tables on these little devil worshippers, because that's what they are. The bar is a foreign agency, the British Accredited Registry. And they are there for the bank. They sit on the bench is the bank, and the bank is the Vatican. That's why they are ecclesiastical. Managing the business of sin. Don't be sinners. There is obviously a mistake. There's a big mistake. Someone has turned up in court, a prosecutor, accusing you based on the name that he found on your licence.
If they ask you what your name is, how would you respond?
You could say, for the record, I have no real evidence upon which to base a response to that question. My mother says that my name is Santo Bonacci. But she also told me that Santa Claus was real, so I cannot be sure. People call me all sorts of things. So you provided your name without providing evidence or testimony against yourself. One woman won her case by just asking that question. By whose authority do you use that name as personal identification? By whose authority do you use that name as personal identification? Just ask that question. You're not in contempt. You can never be in contempt by asking questions. And you're out of there. That's the right question to ask, because they can't use that name. They're making a claim against that name. It's just a name. It's a fiction. It's on paper. It's not you. So who have I hurt? Can I see the person that I've hurt? May I see the person that I've injured? And who's making a claim on that name? Ask to meet the one making the claim. And you'll see the face on the prosecutor go white. Because whoever makes the claim must bring the remedy. And they pay for it. They go on surety. And they know it. All you have to do is expose their game. It's the salvage business. Don't participate in it. Be a peaceful inhabitant and ask the right questions. That's the remedy. I'm getting through that. Here's another question. Where is the proper notice to enable this matter to be dealt with honourably? Where is the proper notice to enable this matter to be dealt with honourably? So those are the two sentences and the two questions. Check out the website Creo Harmony and a guy called Boris. Boris and Batman, they're all into the peaceful inhabitant, okay? And then I was going to show you the Postmaster General stuff would be .me, sui juris .me, and another one is notice. noticerecipient.com. That's a blog. I'm sorry, I could have prepared like some good graphics with all these websites and everything, but my niece, who does all my things for me, she's over in Italy right now, having a holiday. So and I don't know how to do them. So I'm relying on other people here. So I've only got these notes. Okay, and also check out the video Universal Community Trust. You're going to have a lot of fun with these videos and you'll see relief for once. This is relief. These guys are into relief and remedies. These are the remedies. Be the king when you go to court. Universal Community Trust. Fantastic video. It will absolutely encourage you immensely.
Is it on YouTube?
Yeah. Yep. So you're a friend of the court, you're a peaceful inhabitant. That's about the only statement you ever want to make in court. There appears, or I believe, there is a mistake in the matter of the name. Because you want to give them a chance. They're acting fraudulently, and you want to give them a way out to get out of this before you let them know of their fraud. It's fraud. They're committing fraud. And they're getting away with it because we don't know. We're down here thinking down here with that brain. And there's 1, 2, 3 other brains that we're not really using properly. We haven't brought the salvation, the salt. And they know it. They can tell. They can tell when someone's walking into their court and they're brain dead. They might be, logical and reasonable. They might be able to use logic and reason. But logic and reason's all in here, you see. The salvation, is the intuitive brain. They know that their system has kept you down here. I didn't mention half of the things. Fluoride, aspartame, chemtrails, immunisations with mercury. They put mercury. Mercury destroys the nervous system. The nervous system is the soul. The fluids in the cerebrospinal system is the soul. And they have gone after the soul. As the nervous system evolves and grows different and evolves, what will happen is eventually we will have 360 senses activated. We're only working on 5 senses because this is all dull. There's no salt going up. We've been taught to squander our salt. Yeah, go out and have a drink and pick up some chicks and take them home. That's pretty much what most guys out there in the world, they go to the footy, get drunk, Carlton beats Essendon, so let's go and get happy and that, and we'll go to the bar down Crown and picked up some easy chicks, take them home, have some sex, and all of that acid and all of that wasting the oil, it's poisons the blood. It's all about the blood. The cell salts, when you restore the cell salts. By the way, I didn't finish that. How do you know which cell salts you need? Well, remember, conception and birth, this person, a Capricorn, will be deficient in these 3 cell salts. And this guy in his books, in all his books, has a chart of all the 12 cell salts. And,
Or more importantly, what are the 12 cell salts?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you. All right, well, in the case of an Aryan like me, they would be ferrum phosphate, so that's iron phosphate, potassium phosphate, and natrium sulfate. Yeah. Get those cell salts balanced and just forget about arthritis. Say goodbye to rheumatism. Say goodbye to all of those filthy things, the chemicals that we put into this natural alchemical laboratory. And this is an immune system comparable to this is the best creation in the universe. We are it. This is the Temple of Solomon. Well, as I said before, it's going to happen naturally. You get 12 opportunities, you get 12 seeds every time the moon is in your sun sign, every year. So that's time to, especially when the moon is transiting the sun sign, it's time to be really, really good and keep that little baby Jesus in cloths. Because you see, remember, Jesus was in cloths in Bethlehem, the manger. This is the manger. That's Bethlehem. And I would be practicing things. Breathing helps. Learn some Hatha Yoga or Yoga Nidra. I did that. I learned how to breathe with that. I don't know, there's many other yogas, but I learned how to breathe with the three parts of the lungs. There's the lower and the mid and the higher in the shoulders and everything like that, and how to direct the air to the front and then to the sides and to the back, and you can do that with feeling. All you've got to do is really concentrate on your breath and know that when you draw in, you know, there should be some expansion here, here, here and here, and you can focus where you want the expansion to go. Generally, you want it to go all through the three areas. You see, this breath is the most sheer energy thing you can do. There's more, you get more energy and vitality from the breath, from your breathing, than from food and water. But good water, of course, is really important. Breathing, remember the raw food. You know, cooked food, right? How long does soup stay in a pot? When you do, you've seen those beautiful, there's your pot, right? And you've got this fire underneath here blazing away, it's boiling water, and cut your potatoes, you throw them in that boiling water and everything. And these potatoes have got this aura already. They come from the ground, and all the plants, you know, whatever you put in there, parsley, whatever, all those leafy things, if you could see them magnetically, they've got this aura. It comes from their DNA. The moment they touch the boiling water, the DNA is just shredded to pieces. And you kill it. Try, I mean, what, an hour? How long is a soup cooking for? 1 hour? Sometimes, yeah. You put the lid on and you're torturing those, make sure they taste great. Oh, this part of your body loves it. The palate, oh, it's a delight to the palate. But when it gets down here, that's why people are taking antacid pills and all sorts of, and they've got all sorts of infirmities. It's all about eating. It's all about gluttony and cooking food. Now I say to people, right, an hour. Okay, so let's half that, half an hour. All right, no, let's do a quarter of an hour. A quarter of an hour, or even 10 minutes, or 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Try putting your hand in the same pot of water that you cook your vegetables in, you have those vegetables. Try putting your hand in. Oh, let's do it 10 seconds. Go on, let's be 10 seconds. And see how useful your hand is after 10 seconds of living in that water where you put all your food in. Or the food you fry. Frying is even worse. You have to amputate your hand. It's dead. The boiling water will kill it. That's what it does to our food. Tastes great. It amplifies by 100-fold the taste. So it's great for this, but then it's toxic. Raw food is absolutely... So breathing, raw food, meditation. Meditation is the most powerful way to push the evolution and push the oil. Entheogens too. They used to give folks in the mystery schools, they used to give them potions from mushrooms and plants. Cannabis was used. The Sufi Muslims used to use them a lot. The assassins. There was a sect of the Muslims, they smoked hashish and stuff like that. These are all natural things. The natural plants. They're not drugs. Drugs is this dirty word, you know, where cocaine and low-grade heroin and stuff made in laboratories like crack and ice and all of that stuff. Amphetamines, barbiturates, narcotics. That's not the plants. The plants are the sacraments, and they also help in this. But meditation's chief. Jane-Quinn, Doe's Freedom from Fiction. Read this, please, and read how the fiction works.
Can you repeat that,
Jane Quinn Doe. Jane Quinn Doe's Freedom from Fiction. Whoops, that's an I double N. I double N. Does. Great article. So if I had a whole bunch more hours, we could really go through this and the remedies. But I would really be following the peaceful inhabitants. And don't create controversy. Don't be belligerent. Yeah, Creo Harmony, Boris. I'd be going straight there first. This is peaceful inhabitants. And there's a whole bunch of this information.
And the 4 questions will be there?
Not really. They're not 4 questions. They're 4 corner posts, what's called the 4 corner posts. I'll be discussing those on my American Freedom Radio shows coming up with Batman and Steve.
What station is it?
American Freedom Radio. All links to my shows are on universaltruthschool.com. Where did I put that? Oh, there it is. So, you got the questions then. And the last question is, the 4th of the cornerstones is, ask to meet the one making the claim. Because he won't want to appear. Because it's fraud. And you can get them for fraud. And they won't. They're out of there. Case over. Discharged. There's a chapter in here, 10 pages, called The Dark Satellite. The dark satellite is the animal chakra of the earth. As we have 7, so does the earth have 7. Right? And one of those chakras is the animal chakra. And it's all the animal souls are in there. And that's where those people, it explains in there that the dark brethren, who are the Vatican, are connected magnetically to that animal. You see, so in church when they talk about the devil, oh, the devil's, it's not the devil. It's the animal spirits that they are possessed with. They adore them. They adore them. It's the solar plexus instinctive animal mind. It's all of this mind. They're deviant down here. They're very smart, but they're not enlightened. They're educated.
It's cunning,
Yeah, they're cunning, like animals. They're killers. They'll kill, no problem. You'll never kill.
So are they incapable of being enlightened?
No, they're not incapable, but they've chosen not to. They don't want it. They want money. They want banks. They want slaves. They want to smoke Cubans and eat caviar and drink champagne and have cocktail parties and think they're great and drive around in Ferraris and jet setting, and they just want to rule other people. They get a kick out of it. Power. Because they're down here. They are... See, in Hermetic science, these are conscious human beings and these are unconscious human beasts. And that's 90% of mankind, man. They've been kept there, the poor things. You've got to feel sorry for the churchgoers. They're waiting for Jesus. Jesus is coming, he's coming, he's coming. Jesus is... It's within. The Apostle Paul says that. What George Carey has to say about these types. Let us make the proper distinction between reason and intuition. Intuition is knowing. Reason is only a supposition that a certain thing or theory is true. If it be demonstrated that the theory is false, the structure or argument built upon the sand formation of reason falls. Intuition does not depend upon reason or so-called logical deductions. This Rome, logic saved the Christian logic and reason and everything like that. No, destroyed the world because it's got people in here and they're detached from their intuition. And he goes on to say, intuition is information direct from the source of all knowledge.